Lily sat nestled on a sun-warmed bench beneath a canopy of gold and rust-colored leaves, her hand gently entwined with Ryan's as they watched the autumn light spill across Willow Park. The wind carried the crisp scent of the seasoned earth smoke and distant rain and danced through her soft brown hair, which she brushed behind her ear as she laughed at something he had just whispered. Ryan, handsome and confident, with eyes that hinted at ambition and warmth, turned toward her with a smile that made her chest swell with certainty. They were in the midst of planning their wedding, a shared dream that had begun the day he proposed, beneath a firework-lit sky. It felt as if life was blooming around them, every detail of the future venue's guest lists, honeymoon destinations stitched together with love, and the kind of joy that made the world feel infinite. They weighed dates and imagined scenes from their future life, each moment painted vividly in their minds. "August is too hot," Lily said, wrinkling her nose playfully. "We do not want our guests melting." Ryan chuckled his thumb, tracing idle circles on the back of her hand. "Then what about July early, not too humid? We could rent that seaside villa. Remember the one with the wraparound porch and white roses?" Her eyes sparkled. "Yes, with fairy lights and waves crashing behind us." In that moment, Lily saw herself in a flowing dress, barefoot in the sand, Ryan holding her close as music floated on the summer wind. They spoke of a home with a garden of children who would inherit Ryan's confidence and Lily's laughter, of travels to far-off cities, of Sunday mornings and evening firesides. To Lily, this was not just planning a wedding. It was constructing a life, one grounded in love, mutual respect, and unwavering belief in each other. The air was light with promise, and she felt invincible in its glow. Nothing she thought could shatter this foundation. What she did not know then was that life often turns quietly, its betrayals cloaked in affection, and the people we trust most sometimes carry the sharpest blades. The summer after Lily and Ryan chose their wedding date, the days felt brighter, as if the universe itself had aligned to bless their future. Lily was glowing busy, choosing dress silhouettes, laughing with friends over cake tastings, and daydreaming about their seaside ceremony. But as her joy grew, so too did the quiet unease that whispered in the background, a thread of tension woven through moments she could not yet explain. It started with little things, her older sister Vanessa showing up uninvited to a wedding planning brunch, offering to help, though her gaze lingered too long on Ryan, and her compliments were laced with envy. "You really got lucky, Lily," she'd say with a knowing smile. "Men like Ryan don't come around twice." Vanessa had always been the type who drew eyes when she entered a room, tall, elegant, with striking features, and a confidence that bordered on arrogance. But behind that beauty lay years of insecurity rooted in a childhood where Lily's warmth effortlessly won affection, while Vanessa struggled in her shadow. To the world they were close. To Lily they were blood. But to Vanessa, Lily had something she could never claim: genuine happiness. Vanessa's charm was deliberate and calculating. She started dropping by Ryan's office with coffee, insisting it was just on the way. She lingered after family dinners, asking about his business, in tones that sounded more intimate than curious. Ryan, flattered by the attention and unaware of the danger, responded with polite smiles that slowly deepened into interest. He did not see the shift. Lily did subtly in missed calls, in the way Ryan's eyes drifted during conversations, in the hollow explanations about late meetings. Comment the word "yes" below if you've ever felt someone close to you chip away at your joy while pretending to cheer you on. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel for the rest of this powerful story. You won't want to miss what comes next. Beneath the surface of family dinners and shared childhood memories, something darker stirred. Vanessa's glances grew longer, Ryan's voice more distant, and Lily, still clinging to the dream they built together under falling autumn leaves, could feel her perfect world beginning to crack. But the worst part was not the betrayal itself. It was the slow unraveling of trust by someone who shared your blood, who once braided your hair and held your secrets. That kind of betrayal scars differently. It digs deeper, and it changes you forever. By the time autumn returned, the same season that once wrapped Lily and Ryan in golden light, The chill in the air no longer came from the changing weather, it came from him. Conversations became clipped kisses, felt rehearsed, and Lily's instincts whispered truths her heart was not ready to accept. She clung to memories of Willow Park, of Ryan's hand tracing circles on hers, of laughter that once felt effortless. But now his touch was absent, his gaze distracted, and the silence between them grew loud enough to echo. Vanessa, ever present, had positioned herself like a shadow behind their love, smiling too often, standing too close, speaking with a familiarity that only deepened Lily's unease. Her sister had become a fixture in their lives, one Lily hadn't invited. Then, like a wave breaking against stone, the truth arrived not through confession, but abandonment. One morning, Ryan was simply gone. No goodbye, no call, no explanation. His phone rang unanswered, his apartment locked his presence, erased as if he had never existed in her world. Lily stood outside his building, heart pounding against cold ribs, knocking with shaking hands, until the sun began to fade. There was no answer, only the silence of betrayal. Weeks passed in numbness until it happened. On a busy downtown street, surrounded by the hum of life, Lily saw them, Vanessa and Ryan, laughing close, effortless. Vanessa's hand was looped through his arm, as if it had always belonged there. They were radiant like a couple caught in the flush of new love. But to Lily, the sight was violence. Her knees weakened, her heart once broken quietly, now shattered loudly within her chest. Ryan saw her. His laughter died mid-note. Guilt flickered in his eyes, but he said nothing. Vanessa, unbothered, tightened her grip on him, her smirk gleaming with victory. She didn't need to speak. Her eyes said everything, he's mine now. And in that moment, everything Lily believed in love, loyalty, family crumbled. But she did not fall. She did not scream. She turned away, each step a silent rebellion against the pain. Her world may have collapsed, but she would rise not as the girl they betrayed, but as the woman who would someday make the past tremble at her presence. They had stolen her love, but they would never take her strength. The city no longer felt like home. Every corner Lily turned was a wound, a memory painted in soft pastels that now bled into gray. The park bench where they had chosen their wedding date became a monument to something that never was. She packed quickly, quietly, letting grief fold into each item placed in her suitcase. No dramatic goodbyes, no explanations, just a final glance in the mirror, eyes hollow but unbroken. She boarded a train to a place she had never been, Silverpine, a small town tucked between mountains and mist. It was not the escape she had once dreamed of. It was survival. The first days were brutal. Her heart still beat in fragments, her nights haunted by the sound of their laughter. But grief, she learned, is a sculptor. It chips away everything you thought you were, and if you let it, it reveals something stronger. She found work at the local hospital, St. Vincent's, where her quiet intensity caught the attention of the head physician. Despite her pain, or perhaps because of it, Lily poured herself into medicine. In the oncology ward, where hope fought daily battles against despair, she discovered a strange comfort. Here, patients carried stories of love and lost courage and fear. And in listening to them, she slowly began to rewrite her own. By day, she learned. By night, she studied, driven not by ambition, but by purpose. She volunteered at the children's ward, reading stories, with a softness that made even the sickest child smile. She walked shelter dogs, finding loyalty in their silent companionship. Her world grew smaller, simpler, but fuller. The love she once gave to a man who vanished, she now gave to strangers who needed it more. In time, the town began to embrace her, and she it. Strangers became friends, pain turned to persistence, and the girl who had once walked away from betrayal became a woman others looked up to. Her name began to circulate in medical circles, not for prestige, but for compassion. The betrayal that nearly broke her had instead reforged her. She no longer checked social media, no longer wondered about Vanessa or Ryan. They had chosen glitter. She had chosen grace. And for the first time in years, Lily did not ache for the life she lost. She had built a better one they could never touch. Lily was not looking for love when she met Dr. Adrian Cole. Love, in her mind, was a storm she had already survived. Beautiful, yes, but dangerous in its unraveling. Her world now revolved around purpose, the patience she served the quiet town of Silverpine, the small joys she had learned to treasure. But life, as it often does, brings light in unexpected places. Adrian entered like a gentle tide, not loud or sweeping, but calm and inevitable. He was in his late 40s, his salt and pepper hair framing a face marked by wisdom and loss. As director of the prestigious Cole Medical Institute, he visited St. Vincent's to observe Lily's oncology initiative, a small program that was gaining quiet acclaim. Their first conversation began in the break room over lukewarm coffee and ended 3 hours later in the hospital garden, surrounded by hydrangeas and laughter. Adrian listened not the way most men did, with one ear and half attention, but with presence, with patience. Lily found herself speaking freely, her voice steady in his silence. He asked not about her past, but about her ideas, her values, her dreams beyond the scars. Over time, coffee turned to dinners, conversations stretched into evenings, and trust once shattered began to stitch itself back together. There was no grand confession, no whirlwind courtship. Instead, it was built slowly on shared research, long walks by the lake debates, over books and ethics, and quiet evenings filled with music and warmth. Adrian never tried to fix Lily. He stood beside her, honoring both her strength and her vulnerability. He never asked for parts of her she was not ready to give. And in that space, she bloomed. A year later, under a sky smeared with lavender and dusk, Adrian proposed by the water. His voice was low but steady. "I have built hospitals, programs, entire futures. But with you, Lily, I want to build a life." Her breath caught. Not because she was afraid, but because for the first time she was ready. Their wedding was held beneath tall pines, with wildflowers instead of chandeliers, friends instead of followers, and love not spectacle at the center of it all. With Adrian, Lily did not just find love again. She redefined it. It was not passion born of fire. It was the steady warmth of someone who holds your hand in silence and says without speaking, "I am here. Always." The letter arrived on a cold, brittle morning, the handwriting delicate, the message devastating. Lily's father had died of a sudden heart attack. The news pressed down like ice on her chest, bringing with it a rush of grief she had not felt in years. He had been a quiet, poetic man, a librarian with soft hands, and a love for old books, someone who never took sides when his daughters quarreled, but always knew where comfort was needed. She had not spoken to him since leaving, too afraid of reopening wounds or hearing disappointment in his voice. Now it was too late. Adrian stood beside her as she stared out at the lake behind their house, her fingers trembling around the edges of the envelope. "You don't have to do this alone," he said. And he meant it. Returning to her hometown felt like walking into a dream warped by time. The buildings were the same, but the memories were louder now, echoes of laughter, betrayal, and heartbreak pressing against her every step. The funeral was held in the same chapel where she had once imagined her wedding. Stained glass windows spilled dull rainbows across rows of black coats and bowed heads. Whispers followed her as she entered, not cruel, but curious. She had become a mystery, Lily Harper, the woman who vanished now, returning with a man whose presence drew stares and speculation. And then they came, Vanessa and Ryan, fashionably late, as if the funeral were a red carpet. Vanessa dripped with diamonds, her smirk sharpened with pride. "Poor Lily," she whispered with saccharine cruelty. Still alone, she tightened her grip on Ryan's arm, staking her claim like a prize. But Lily didn't flinch. Instead, she turned to the doorway. "Meet my husband." Adrian entered without a word, his presence stilling the room. He was elegance without effort, his tailored suit understated but perfect. Murmurs rippled through the pews, recognition, awe. Ryan stiffened. Vanessa's smile vanished. Adrian's name carried weight. He was the man whose rejection of Ryan's desperate business proposal had led to its quiet collapse. The humiliation bloomed on Ryan's face, while Vanessa for once had nothing to say. Lily didn't gloat. She didn't have to. Her calm was louder than revenge. She reached for Adrian's hand and walked past them without another glance. She had returned not for vengeance, but to mourn, to honor, to rise above. And she had. The funeral ended in silence, the kind that settles into bone. Outside the chapel, autumn leaves drifted around Lily's heels as she stood at her father's grave, her hand still wrapped in Adrian's. She had said her goodbye in whispers of regret, of love of a daughter who never stopped needing her father even in absence. Vanessa and Ryan lingered by the church steps, shadows of their former selves. Vanessa, stripped of her sharpness, avoided Lily's gaze. Ryan looked tired, older than his years, his ambition withered by years of chasing empty victories. Lily approached them one last time, not out of spite, but out of grace. "I'm sorry it came to this," she said softly, "but I don't carry anger anymore. I just hope you both find something real, something deeper than appearances." Vanessa's eyes fell to the ground, her silence louder than any apology. Lily turned to Ryan. "You had something real once. Do not waste what's left of yourself chasing echoes." He nodded, guilt twisting through his features. "Thank you, Lily," he murmured, "for still believing I can be more than I was." She didn't answer, she just walked away. Back in Silverpine, the world felt softer. Lily returned to her life, to Adrian, to her calling. She spoke at conferences, mentored young doctors, planted a tree in her father's memory behind the hospital. Her love with Adrian continued to bloom, not in spectacle, but in the quiet resilience of two souls who chose each other fully. Months later, a letter arrived in her mailbox. The handwriting was familiar. One line. "Did you ever really forgive me?" It was unsigned, but Lily knew. She stood at the edge of the lake letter, in hand, the sky glowing with sunset. She did not answer. Not yet. If you believe healing is the quietest revenge and growth, the most beautiful triumph, subscribe now and follow Lily's journey as it unfolds. The story is not over.